Hello, everyone. Welcome to Youth Bombs. I am Coleman.
I'm David.
And I'm Dominic.
All right, guys. Week 1, Trump Admin 2.0. How are we liking it? Dominic, your thoughts?
Well, I'm absolutely loving it, of course.
Loving it.
First off, Gulf of America.
Gulf of America.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen. What a beautiful name.
I mean, there's just so many executive orders. What should I start with?
Yeah, we got, 200 on the first day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we'll get into the highlights in a moment. But, David, your first impression.
First impression.
We're winning bigly. Sorry. Go ahead.
We finally have a president who is actually doing things anymore. I don't know where Biden's been for the past couple of weeks, but all we've seen is Trump meeting with all of these leaders and him settling with Netanyahu the peace deal and the ceasefire, which is something that Biden and Kamala haven't been able to do since the very start of it. And he was actually credited by Netanyahu, by the Prime Minister of Israel. You can look this up on the Twitter account, for bringing about this ceasefire deal. So it seems like hopes are up. I was over there for the last rally, the last Trump rally, and for the inauguration.
Ooh.
And I can tell you, everybody was extremely excited.
Ooh,
Everybody's
yeah.
wearing the MAGA hats.
Yeah, you went
Just
to
something
D.C.,
different.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that a little bit later. I think, or actually, before I get into all the actions, what was D.C. like during the inauguration? We need to know.
Oh, the vibe was very hopeful. Everybody
hopeful
was
vibes.
Yeah, everybody was very hopeful. Everybody was wearing their "Make America Great Again" hats. There was no stigma for wearing it. Everybody was wearing it. Everybody was happy, and everybody was just joyful and just really hopeful for the next administration.
All right, hope is a strong word, but I'm confused because my friends are telling me that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was overturned. What's going on there? I mean, did minorities just lose their rights, or what's really going on here? Because the media is telling me something that I'm a bit confused.
I know Biden just put it, like Dominic, you explain it better.
Yeah, so Trump did not overturn the Civil Rights Act of 1964 because it was legislation passed by Congress, and presidents cannot overturn that. What he did do is overturn a lot of DEI initiatives, which, of course, actually contradict the Civil Rights Act by discriminating against white males and the white population in general. And that's something that I think is a great move, a great thing for our country. Now we will actually have people who are qualified for their positions and fair hiring practices. So I think that was one of Trump's best moves so far.
Right, and to elaborate a bit on what Dominic just said, so presidential executive orders cannot overturn acts of Congress. The Civil Rights Act was an act of Congress. Yes, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the act into law, as is done with every act, but a future president, or any president for that matter, cannot overturn acts of Congress with executive orders. So if there's anyone saying that, that's a lie. So, yes, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 still applies. It is still very illegal to discriminate against immutable characteristics when hiring candidates. Moving on. Now,
I think he enforced it by going ahead and taking away the DEI program.
Right, exactly. And to be clear, the purging of DEI initiatives, he can very much so control that at the federal level, and that's why the federal bureaucratic institutions have been the quickest to act on that. The reason why on the private level we have been seeing reversals of DEI, but they're going to be slower because the president doesn't directly control the private sector. However, he is advising the bureaucrats to say, hey, here's how you comply with, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, basically, and the Supreme Court case revolving Harvard and hiring and student admissions. Okay, moving on. Fellas, how many genders are there?
Two.
All right, great. Our president agrees. We got 2 genders, ladies and gentlemen. It is official now. And I think in passports is pretty much you cannot put gender X. So, fellas, it's official. Ain't nothing but 2 genders. So, as what's the guy's name? One of the famous pastor, Ralph Northam, I think, said that, and I thought it was hilarious. So, withdrawal of the Paris Climate Accord. Guys, what in the world's going on there? Do you know what the Paris Climate Accord is?
Yeah, generally.
Generally? Mm-hmm. David? Okay. So, are we going to burn now? Like, are we gonna get flooded? Is like the North and South Pole gonna like melt simultaneously now in the next 4 years? No. You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, you sure? Okay, cool. So for the audience, to explain that, yes, we withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord in the first Trump administration, and according to the EPA, our emission levels were still on a downward trend, and we're still the cleanest nation globally.
China can't not say the same.
Right, China and India, for example, definitely cannot stay the same, and we should definitely be pressuring them. The burden is not on us, even though we love to be like America-centric and we live in a bubble. We need to expand our worldview here and realize we're not the problem when it comes to like perpetuating climate change.
It's really funny how these climate change activists have such a big ego that they think it's all up to us in order to, and it's only because of us that the temperatures are rising up. When you look at a graph of the history of the temperature in the Earth, you notice that it doesn't stay the same. The Earth's temperature has never been static. It's always been constantly changing, and it goes up in scales that go up and down. And right now, we just happen to be going up. We just happen to be going up, and just maybe we're not the center of the universe, and maybe it's not us that's causing these temperatures to go higher, but maybe it's because the Earth's temperatures, just because of the orbits and because of just because we live in an actual solar system, we have multiple components, and it's not just people. Yep. That the Earth is constantly changing, and we just happen to be going through one of those changes.
And if we've learned anything from the LA wildfires, it's that we've got to stop listening to the supposed environmentalists.
No, you have to stop using ChatGPT. That's the real harm right there.
Wait, how is ChatGPT involved?
Oh, because people are now saying, "What can I know about this?" Yeah.
Oh, right, dude. My
It uses too much energy. Yeah. It uses too much energy apparently, and we're not allowed to advance in technology, because if we do, then we use too much energy, and if we use too much energy, then that's going to cause the temperatures to rise up, because the temperatures are totally dependent on what American people specifically do.
Wild times, ladies and gentlemen.
Very wild times.
So, here's a side thing that I'm aware of. So, media, progressive Twitter talking about, see, guys, Trump really does care about the billionaires because he stopped Biden's executive order to like lower drug prices. Just hold the front door. What's really going on? The executive order that Biden signed that's being addressed here tasked HHS with creating financial models, basically, and then economic models to lower drug prices. And basically going into the new administration, new leadership, all that happened here, I think the reasoning is it doesn't make sense for RFK to carry on old projects. So in order for him with a fresh start, it makes sense to overturn this Biden project with new things under the Trump administration. And to be clear, do you guys remember that what did Trump do about prescription drugs in the first administration? He lowered them, right? Yeah. Or he at least worked to. Yeah. Granted, they faced a lot of legal challenges, but he's at least trying, and it is an upward battle. So, oh yes, guys, is Elon a Nazi? We need to know.
He's the world's first Zionist Nazi who has been taking out people that he thinks are anti-Semites from Twitter. He's been taking out those accounts, and because of his Zionism. Yeah, now he's a Zionist Nazi who said, I gave my heart out to you.
Yeah, my heart goes out, and then put it.
My heart goes out to you.
So
I thought the left was supposed to be really understanding of people with disabilities, but apparently when it comes to recognizing that somebody who has Asperger's isn't the most socially best person, the left isn't understanding or compassionate at all. They just use any moment, even if it's a 3-second clip from a complete out of context speech, in order to try to demonize that person and make him something that is clearly not.
Okay. And now, speaking of atrocities, we now have that federal workers, bureaucrats, need to work full-time in person, 5 days a week. What? This is atrocious.
So, yeah, it's long overdue. We're not in the pandemic anymore.
Yep.
There's no reason to be working from home. These people need to be doing their job, showing up in person, and, just, like, remote work is not the norm anymore. It's not acceptable. These people need to go back to work.
Yeah, these people were, from what I hear, from other people who know some of these federal workers is that they were just playing video games during their supposed work hours.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Like
because-
during like the Zoom calls, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because like something about the federal government is that they just pay you a consistent wage, and it doesn't really matter really how far above the bar you go. That's why the federal government is so incompetent in many ways. Like you look at NASA, they're not doing as much as SpaceX has been doing, which requires you to go above and beyond in order for you to make a profit for the company.
Bingo. All right. Terrorists designated as cartels, or cartels designated as terrorists. Like it or not.
It definitely makes sense logically.
Right.
They are bringing drugs into our country, fentanyl, which is killing hundreds of thousands of people and has destroyed so many lives, ruined so many families, and it is definitely one of the biggest threats our country's facing right now. So I don't see how you cannot classify them as terrorists.
These cartels are awful. They are demonic. Mexico is the number one producer of child sex trafficking, then the U.S. the number one consumer of child sex trafficking. What they do is they use other illegal immigrants because the cartel basically runs the border. Illegals do have to pay. I don't know the exact price because I haven't been down the border lately.
Yeah, it hasn't
But-
worked for any cartels lately,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but they do have to pay the cartel in order to get past, for them to take them past the border, and they transport some of these migrant groups past the border and as a distraction so that they can get the really bad child sex traffickers and the criminals while the border patrol is too busy taking care of and inspecting and trying to put these guys into the federal government website and checking these guys out to the two migrant groups that they're setting. So the cartels are really bad. The people that we're deporting, we're going to have mass deportations, and a lot of people think that the people we're deporting is the abuela that lives next to them, that's cooking up just minding their own business, cooking up their own meals and whatever, and that's not the people we're deporting. We're deporting people like, I believe it's called the M13 gang, right? And other really, really harsh criminals. Like you saw, there was like an illegal immigrant who burned a woman alive in a subway.
Yeah, I saw that.
In New York. Yeah, we're deporting people like these, people who have criminal records in their own countries. When they come here and they get processed through Border Patrol, they can only see if they have a criminal record in the United States, not if they have a criminal record in their old country. In their old country. That's why, like, we recently just found that somebody, like, we were deporting someone who was living here, and he killed people in Colombia, but we didn't really have that information because he wasn't processed through the justice system here yet. And these are the people that we're deporting.
Well, something I'd like to say about that is all illegal immigrants are criminals, right? They violated our country's law by coming here, and therefore they should all be deported because even if they're not actively committing other crimes in the United States, it's still bad for our country. They're hurting our economy, and they all need to get out. So I don't think we should be limiting our deportations just to terrorists and active criminals within the U.S.
Yeah. I think the nuance here is like the Trump administration should and rightfully prioritize those who are, actively committing crimes of violence.
Of course, prioritize them. But
Right. And anyway, so two more things and we'll wrap it up. The withdrawing from the World Health Organization, like it or no?
Well, I like it because
Yep.
the handling of COVID was, of course, a complete
Yeah.
failure. And yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's a globalist organization which seeks to control other countries and to have power over their countries in these decisions. And I know the Biden was trying to make it so the World Health Organization was literally making our decisions for us.
Oh, yeah.
So that the United States
No.
couldn't even do anything against the globalist organization, which it just doesn't seem right because we are the American people and we elect our leaders. And we don't elect the World Health Organization's leaders.
Oh, yeah. All right. And lastly, the pardons. Guys, why is Trump pardoning cop bashers? I've heard this from the media. Well, anyway, I have my thoughts. I guess I'll just go first on this matter. So to explain for the audience, all right, to start with J6, there was 1,500 pardons for convicted people involved in J6. Now, why in the world would Trump pardon these people? Well, to be honest, the statement that was released by the White House regarding this matter wasn't very thorough, and I guess it's pretty difficult to comment on all 1,500 of these cases, and it's even hard enough to comment on the 14 sentence commutations, which I'm not even familiar with. So I think what's to put in a little neat basket, the best we can say for now is whatever they did, worst being assault of a cop, perhaps the 4 years that they served was enough. And, I think the other logic is there is clear motivations of political motives behind these investigations. So do you guys like this? Is this a fair pardon thing, or is it sus?
I love it. I would have lost all respect for President Trump if he hadn't pardoned J6ers. And I'm glad he did it on day one. When it comes to pardons, President Trump is conservative when he gives his pardons. Biden had about 8,000 pardons in his administration. President Trump had, 200 and something?
During his first term, you mean?
During his first term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and Biden was pardoning people. He pardoned a guy who had child pornography, who had... He literally got in trouble for having child pornography. These are the people that President Biden was pardoning. So the Democrats don't really have a lot of ground when it comes to criticizing pardons. Now, President Trump pardoned J6ers because the J6ers went to the Capitol, which is the people's house, in order to protest the election, which they thought was rigged, and the government wasn't responding. The government wasn't contesting the election or even asking questions. They were actually banning people from asking questions. They were taking people off of social media sites for asking questions about the 2020 election. And these people didn't have their voices heard, so they decided to go down to the Capitol and make their voices heard. The people who let them in were federal agents. They didn't break in. They were let in by federal agents. And in some of those videos, it looks like the cops were treating them pretty nicely inside the Capitol, like they weren't doing anything wrong. And then they got hit with all of these phony charges, domestic terrorists. Some were put in jail for up to 20 years is what they were trying to get out of them. And that is ridiculous. It's ridiculous coming from a party which didn't prosecute anybody in the BLM riots which killed about 80 people and which destroyed billions and billions and billions of dollars in property damages. The J6ers, the only people who died in J6 were J6ers. Nobody else died or was harmed. And that's the truth. And these people should have been let go and let free a long time ago. So and I'm glad that President Trump had them in his mind and was caring about them, because these are his supporters and they didn't do anything wrong. And I'm glad they were pardoned on day one.
Cool. And Dominic, do you have any short thoughts to add before we close?
Well, I would agree with everything David said. The vast majority of people there were just standing up for what they believed in. They believed that the election was rigged and that the government was not properly addressing the fraud. And they were just there, protesting. Of course, there were a couple of people, very few, that did do things that were genuinely wrong, and they did not receive full pardons. They just got their sentences commuted. So, yes, I think that finally justice has been served for these people, and everyone is in a rightful position that they deserve for their actions.
And these aren't the only people that were pardoned. Were also pro-life activists who were literally praying outside of abortion clinics, and they were put in jail. Some of them were serving 3 months. Some of them they were trying to put in jail for up to 2 years by the Biden administration, and that's ridiculous. So I'm very glad that people praying outside of abortion clinics were pardoned for exercising their free speech, and it's amazing that these people were pardoned.
Okay.
And also, I do want to drag attention to Trump releasing the files on MLK,
Oh, yeah, we needed
JFK, and RFK.
Right.
And it's quite frankly, it's amazing that the government is finally being transparent, because these files should have been released. At least the JFK files were supposed to be released in 1992, and every president just kept on not releasing them. So I'm very curious to see who's going to be implicated by this, if we're going to get justice.
Yeah, I think to elaborate on that a bit, I think what's going on there is basically, I think the Tulsi Gabbard is one of them. Like, basically, they have to come up with a plan within 48 days to release the files, and then after the plan's presented to the president, then they decide, how they want to release it. So we're not going to get it like tomorrow or within like maybe the next 2 months, but hopefully within the end of the administration, we'll see what happens.
The
there.
JFK files are supposed to be coming in 13 days, or like 12 days.
What? Oh.
Yeah, they're supposed to be released by then, but the MLK and RFK files, it's going to be a little longer. I forgot exactly how many. I think it might be like 3 months before the government has to release them.
Okay, well, we shall see, ladies and gentlemen. And I think one more thing I'll add, once again, we're not condoning any of the crimes that were committed by J6 defense during J6. We're just saying that I think the message being sent by the Trump administration is 4 years is enough, and we're moving forward as a party and as a nation. And with that being said, I think we've had a great first week within President Trump's administration. I think we're all celebrating, having high hopes. And that being said, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions and queries, if you love us, if you hate us, try Youth Bombs at alachrorepublicans.com. And remember to, you can make a difference in your local area too, even though we love to talk about the national politics. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.